Hey, good Friday evening, everybody. Welcome back. Hopefully, we're having a wonderful end to the work week out there and a wonderful start to the weekend. But things are looking very active here in the world of weather, especially going here towards the Thanksgiving holiday and into the start of December. A big shot, in fact, multiple big shots of cold air likely to work down through Canada and into the lower 48. And that's going to bring very cold temperatures as well as the chance for an active storm track and potentially some wintry weather in the form of snow or maybe even ice through portions of the country. So I'm going to break all that down for you in this evening's video. Now, if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Gerald. I'm a meteorology major at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button while you're here. And if you're a returning viewer who's not subscribed, also go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It's a great way to stay up to date, and it just makes your life easier. It keeps these videos in your feed so you'll be up to date with the latest model guidance and a breakdown of that guidance. Also, go ahead and consider liking the video if you enjoy it, and comment, let me know where you're watching from and what you want to see weather-wise for your neck of the woods going into that Thanksgiving holiday. All right, with that said, let's go ahead and jump right into it and go ahead and break down this pattern as it is beginning to work on in. And again, not very far from this potential Arctic air outbreak. Now, current conditions, again, it's remaining pretty active for much of the country. We've got one storm system over the east, another storm system over the west. Both of these kind of playing tag here and bringing active weather from sea to shining sea. In fact, we saw big time snow into the northeast over the past couple of days. In fact, I saw one place in New Jersey had almost 2 feet of snow on some of the highest elevations in the northern half of the state. So again, seeing pretty incredible pictures and images. And I talked about that really all week. I said we were going to see some kind of crazy magic with that upper level low. And that's exactly what ended up happening. But the real focus today is going to be what's to come, not really what's happening right now. And if we go ahead and kind of take a look at the pattern on the horizon, it's one that is going to promote Arctic air spilling southward into Canada and eventually into the United States. And you'll see that here on our latest European model from this afternoon. What's expected to happen really the start of next week is ridging, or areas of kind of high pressure and warmer temperatures beginning to lock in here into portions of Alaska and then into Greenland. And what this is going to do is create a bit of a highway of cold air out of the Arctic that is likely to spill southward into the United States. And that does include the eastern United States. And you can even see that on the model here. Move this ahead into time. Look at one little piece of blue first early this coming week, and then another shot of blue breaks off by Thanksgiving. And that Thanksgiving shot of cold air really amplifies itself and locks in. This is Saturday, the morning of Saturday after Thanksgiving. We've got very cold temperatures over much of the eastern United States. That combined with maybe even an active storm track from the subtropical jet stream. This could spell a bit of a snowy pattern to end out November and start the month of December. And this pattern looks to hang on for a while, well into that first week of December, noticing this area of blue maintaining itself over the eastern United States for the foreseeable future. So again, this tells me we're going to see an active kind of look at the weather. And if we take a look at our 500 millibar heights and the winds associated with those heights, you'll notice that first shot of cold air is not far away. This is going into this weekend. This is that first piece of energy. This is this coming Tuesday, folks. You'll notice a bit of a trough digging down here. And because of that, we're beginning to see the jet stream get a little more amped here, a little more active as that cold air begins to spill south and crashes with that warmer Gulf air. Again, this is kind of one of the fun things about this time of the year is you get all sorts of air masses beginning to kind of run into each other. And that's when we get that active weather. And that's what we're expecting here with storm number one. Now, you'll also see storm number one here on the actual kind of surface prediction here from the European model. This is this Sunday afternoon. Things remaining pretty calm at that point in time. Not a lot happening through the country, but beginning to get more active as we get further ahead into the early part of next week. Snow beginning to break out from Minnesota up into the UP of Michigan, Wisconsin on this latest model run. And also another thing you'll notice is the cold front. Notice this troughing at the surface and this kind of blue kind of troughing in the mid-levels behind this storm system. This is the first shot of cold air. This is going to bring things back down to average or even below average just in time for Thanksgiving. And what happens after that is we begin to see kind of that cold air flatten out a little bit. And by the time we get towards Thanksgiving, what do you notice? Another storm kind of looming on the horizon here. This is the Thanksgiving storm. This one could bring snow to a good chunk of people, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But before we do, let's go ahead and break down the potential for snowfall totals here into the northern plains and maybe even the Midwest out of that first shot of cold air. So this is 48-hour snowfall from our blend of models. So again, a bunch of models the National Weather Service uses blended together. And if we move this ahead into time, you will notice that signal for snow here. Now, not a ton of snow, but I do think northern kind of Minnesota here up into northern Michigan, specifically the UP that is, and into even northern Wisconsin. Again, a pretty good mean here showing up of 3 to 5 inches of snow out of that first storm system. And another thing that this could do is kind of bring in some lake effect snow. If you look at the eastern United States, and I move this further ahead into time, notice by the time we get into the middle of next week, after that cold front swings through, the normal trouble spots for lake effect snow begin to pick up. This includes Erie, PA, into the Buffalo area, up here into the Tug Hill Plateau, seeing some higher snowfall showing up here into northern Michigan and into the UP of Michigan as well. So not just an outside of kind of the normal troublesome spots here, the areas that normally see lake effect snow could begin to get in on that a little bit more readily here by the middle of next week after that first shot of cold air. But I'll tell you, if the first shot of cold air doesn't bring lake effect, that second shot of cold air very likely will have a good shot to do it. And you'll be able to see that here, again, as we continue to move our map ahead into time. Same map we were looking at. This is our 500 millibar height wind field. And you'll notice, again, same model here, the European. What happens in the near future after that first shot of cold air, let me go and refresh the page so it loads a little bit quicker. Move it all the way ahead into time. Again, we get that first shot of cold air. That's what you see through the Ohio Valley. This is next Tuesday. But then another storm system, another trough begins to dig southward through the Rockies during the early part of next week. And by Thanksgiving itself, this begins to work out of the Rockies and into the southern plains. And you look at this map, and let me point out a couple things for you that are kind of important to note. One, again, you'll notice some troughing down here. You'll notice the jet stream getting active over the southern tier of the country. This tells me a couple things. One, the storm track is relatively far south, likely somewhere in here. Also, though, to the north where the winds are a little bit calmer aloft, that's deep into some cooler air. Kind of where the air masses are clashing is where the jet stream is stronger and where that storm track is. So this is a look that shows a boundary of some Arctic air and a storm track kind of riding along that boundary. Now, with a setup like this, you're going to run a storm threat, but generally speaking, these are a little more progressive in nature. And what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is the energy doesn't get quite as amplified. And you can see that if we take a look at the European model. Let me move this ahead. This is that first little piece of energy early next week. Again, that's that first shot of cold air working through the Midwest and the Great Lakes region on Tuesday. But here comes our next piece of energy. First, working out west through Northern California Tuesday afternoon, getting down into the Four Corners by Wednesday, and then Thursday, noticing our energy down here into the southern plains. That's a part of the subtropical jet. Now, the polar jet is kind of this energy you see to the north. So for a big storm to happen, what you would want is the two to link up. Now, the models have not really shown that a whole lot. They've kind of been back and forth. Sometimes they show it, sometimes they don't. But if these two pieces don't link up, you're going to get, again, a kind of weaker, more strung out energy that kind of rides on through the southern tier of the country. And that will be enough to produce precipitation and lift, and probably even some snow that overlaps there with that Arctic boundary. But if the two were to link up, and I'll tell you, they're not far from it. Again, here's one piece of energy, here's the other. If they have enough time to phase together, that could spell trouble for portions of the Northeast. And again, these two are beginning to get close towards the Northeast near Black Friday and the weekend of Thanksgiving. Notice how close they get. That could lead to a stronger storm along the coastline. And then after that, you'll notice a big shot of cold air with a whole bunch of energy swinging on through. Now, that's the European model. What about the GFS? And this is brand new, folks. Literally, I'm going to analyze it with you for the first time here. Same general idea, though. It starts here. There's that first piece of energy that moves on through the Northeast, or rather the Midwest and the Great Lakes, and eventually the Northeast as well here early next week. After that, a new piece of energy, again, moving through California early next week. A little bit more delayed on the GFS. Eventually getting into the Four Corners region by Thanksgiving itself. and then gets out here into the southern plains. And you'll notice, again, same thing, kind of a strung out kind of mess of energy over the southeastern United States with that polar energy to the north. So again, what you want for a big storm or big snow is you want these two pieces to connect, and not quite doing it here on the GFS with this storm, but this would still bring active weather. But more importantly, what it does is it pulls that northern energy down, and we get a big dumping of cold air with some energy kind of working on through in the 7 to 10 day time frame. So if we kind of put all this together and we look at what does this mean for the surface, well, the European model from this afternoon, again, we already looked at that. That's the first storm, again, bringing snow potentially to the northern tier and then lake effect behind it. Here comes the next storm. You see it developing there through the Four Corners, heavy Rocky Mountain snow and active weather through the Four Corners on the day before Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving itself, here we go, Thanksgiving morning. Again, more of a kind of strung out look here. So not a very well-defined storm system with very strong fronts, kind of a bit of a mess here, but still bringing rain Thanksgiving morning through the Mid-South, even some snow breaking out here into the Ohio Valley as some of that precipitation overlaps with that Arctic boundary. But what happens on the European next is what gets a little bit more exciting. The two pieces of energy, that cold air and that kind of warmer subtropical jet, link up right at the end here, and notice what's happening in the Northeast. This is Black Friday, the morning of. We got snow breaking out through Pennsylvania, New York State, Connecticut, even portions of Rhode Island and much of Massachusetts as this big dumping of cold air begins to work south, connects with our storm, wraps around it, strengthens the storm, and throws more of that precipitation along the cold conveyor back into this very cold air mass. And then you get a bigger storm with a setup like that on the European, and then cold air lingers and hangs around for a while. Again, this is more than 10 days from now. We still have these blue height values well down south. In fact, the rain snow line, if you will, gets all the way down into Florida. Now, does that mean it's going to snow in Florida? No, but it means that cold air is working very far south, and that's what the model shows. Now, the GFS, again, brand new. We're going to look at this for the first time together here. Here's the first storm. Again, early next week, that swings on through. Then here comes the energy. A whole lot of mountain snow, valley rain into the Rockies, the southern Rockies, that is, just before Thanksgiving. We get to Thanksgiving Day itself and the morning of. You'll notice a pretty far south track on this thing. We've got rain breaking out through Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia here for your Thanksgiving commute, at least, again, if you're commuting that day. But some of the energy gets kind of hung up into the Rockies. And what happens is, again, it's just this strung out mess. This is Black Friday, the afternoon of. And here is our big Arctic front, again, this big boundary setting up shop pretty far south here. And we're seeing a little bit of snow breakout into northern Arkansas through the Ozarks there, even into portions of Oklahoma, and a cold rain through much of the south as we get really a southern slider, as we call it, moving just south of this Arctic boundary. So a setup like this, it doesn't look as exciting, but I'll tell you, it's close to something big here. If you were to get, again, this northern energy to kind of combine with this southern energy, you could get a pretty big storm here the weekend of Thanksgiving. And then that swings on through and ushers in this very cold air behind it. You see lake effect snow really picking up here. Again, that cold air hanging on, and we get really far ahead into time. Notice what begins to happen. That southern branch stays active. That cold air continues locked into place. And that would spell, maybe some wintry weather to start the month of December. So even if this Thanksgiving storm doesn't play out into your favor, I do think the pattern remains favorable. Really, we'll say now, all the way through the next 10 days, maybe the next 10 to 15 days into that first week of December. And you can see that on the ensembles as well. This is the chance of at least an inch of snow falling within a 24-hour period. We'll start with the European. And here it is. You'll notice, again, snow chances increasing into portions of southern Canada, into the Great Lakes early next week, and then another burst of snow potential as that Thanksgiving storm, again, interacting with that Arctic boundary from Kansas all the way to the Northeast. In fact, we get to next week, and the European has pretty high chances of some snow falling into the Northeast. We're running 70% plus here into Pennsylvania. That swings on through, and then look at this lake effect machine cranking up big time here just after Thanksgiving and to start start December. Heavy snow through portions of the UP of Michigan, the Mitten of Michigan itself, all the way down through Pennsylvania, much of eastern Canada, New York, the Northeast, and even through the Appalachia chain, seeing those snowfall chances increase with that big Arctic outbreak. In fact, the air is so cold from this Arctic outbreak on the ensembles, we're getting ocean effect snow. You'll notice this little snow picking up off the coast of the Northeast. Yeah, that's not lake effect, that's ocean effect snow, even over those very warm ocean temperatures out there. It doesn't matter. The Euro and its ensembles show snow. All right, GFS model and its ensemble, same general story. One burst of snow chances early next week, like we talked about. After that, another increase in snowfall potential through the central part of the country, from Kansas all the way back through Missouri into the Apps. And again, not very high. The model's still bickering over what's going to happen, but you get the idea where that signal is. That hangs around for a while, and then much like the European showed, the lake effect machine really cranks up, and then the GFS kind of has some energy lingering around here. And look at this, the first little bit of December, we got snowfall chances getting quite far south on the GFS ensembles. Now, again, am I saying it's going to snow in Tennessee in the heart of Nashville at the first week of December? It's not what I'm saying, but what I am saying is the pattern is favorable for cold air, and the southern jet stream is remaining active. So we're going to run the risk of some sort of storm system, even potentially further south, once we get into the first week of December. Now, how cold are we going to get? Well, this is the European model. You'll notice this is early next week, so we'll warm up a little bit. Then here comes that first shot of cold air. This is next Tuesday, next Wednesday, next Thursday, and you'll notice already by Thanksgiving, let me get to Thanksgiving afternoon. Here's that boundary setting up. Notice where the cold and the warm air are kind of meeting, but that real kind of Arctic air is still up into Canada. But if you're a fan of the cold, don't fret. Here it comes, working on down the side of the Rockies and getting well deep into the eastern United States. This is 8 days from now, or maybe 7 days, depending on how you look at it. This is next Saturday afternoon. We're talking temperatures 20 to 30 degrees below what they should be through much of the east, all the way down into Florida, back up into the northern plains. Again, an Arctic air mass settling in, and the European hangs on to that for a while, all the way into the beginning of December, well below average temperatures lingering into the eastern United States. Now, what does that mean actual number-wise? Well, this is potential low temperatures next Saturday at that same time frame. We got lows down into the 20s, all the way down into Alabama and Georgia. We've got lows in the single digits, even below zero into the northern plains, and low temperatures in the teens and 20s through the Northeast. So obviously, pretty cold temperatures here with that freezing line getting well south. And for this to be the first day of December, that would definitely be quite the wake-up call to the start of meteorological winter. You would definitely notice it, to say the least. Now, another thing I want to mention here, we've been talking about energy, we've been talking about vorticity. Well, that's the cold air. There's going to be energy flying around in that same time frame. So let me get you there. This is that same time Saturday. And notice, here's that big block of cold air, but oftentimes what can happen is a little short waves will kind of ride along this, or our southern branch of the jet stream down here, maybe a little bit of this gets amplified. And again, it's very possible these two can interact. We could get some sort of storm system, and that's what we'll be watching for the first week of December, as we kind of watch all this energy flying around and interacting with that cold air that is locked into place due to that Arctic boundary. So that's kind of the latest there. And again, just to show you one more time, this is expected to last for a while. Cold air, again, spilling southward. This is the GFS ensemble. There's that first big punch early next week. Here's the bigger punch of cold air right around Thanksgiving. That locks in for the start of December. And look at the GFS, folks. This hangs around blue in the east all the way through the next 15 days. So this could be, again, quite the start to winter that maybe we didn't see last year. And some folks that are maybe snow deprived could hopefully get in on the fun here as we move this ahead into time. And I'll tell you, I'm not just some crazy college kid telling you this. The Climate Prediction Center agrees. Temperatures in the next 6 to 10 days, a high likelihood of below average temperatures really everywhere east of the Rockies. And we bring this 8 to 14 days out. Look at this. It stays that way. Everyone east of the Great Plains, will say here, having a high chance of below average temperatures, including the I-95 corridor, really from Miami all the way up to Maine on this map, to start the month of December. And we look at precipitation for this time frame. This is the 6 to 10 day time frame. We've got below average temperatures and above average precipitation. What does that tell you? That tells you maybe some winter weather could be on the way. And then we move this even further ahead into time. and looks to dry out a little bit at that point. But what I do want you to notice this above average precipitation down into Texas and Florida. That tells me still an active southern track here. So again, we'll see how maybe that interacts with some cold Arctic air hanging around. But either way, it looks like an exciting end to November here and start to December. So just to quickly summarize everything, I know that was a lot quick and heavy. One shot of cold air early next week, that could bring Great Lake effect snow. Then another storm system and a bigger shot of cold air right around Thanksgiving into Black Friday and into that weekend. That really establishes the cold air and could potentially bring snow. And then after that, we'll have the cold air, and then we'll be watching for a potential southern slider or some sort of storm system to maybe interact with that cold air and bring some wintry weather. Alrighty, folks, that's your update here on this Friday evening. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and I will see you all tomorrow with another video update, including more kind of current condition stuff, and we'll talk more about this pattern. With that said, y'all have a great rest of your night. Enjoy it, stay safe, and I'll see you all tomorrow.